Welcome everybody. I am the YouTuber here, and we're going to start for uh, the podcast. Here, this is the podcast for the NCAA Football 14 podcast, episode 1. This is a new podcast replacing the Sports Gaming podcast, weekly podcast, and we're just doing it for just NCAA Football 14 from this point forward on Thursdays. Is the day for this. If we need to move it around because of holidays, we will on those holidays. So, let's start on off with the show. Let's get it rolling here. It's gonna be a good podcast. I could put up something on the screen. Let me do that here and find something here to put up on the screen. Hell, you're not just looking at a black screen. The entire time. Yeah, so I'm gonna get that pulled up in just a bit. And then we'll get rolling with the show. We got a lot to talk about in today's show, so bear with us as let me get to the fit screen. There we go. That's better. So welcome to the podcast. We'll just leave it as this for the podcast. And thank you for joining us for this podcast today. It's gonna be a good one today. We got a lot to talk about as far as what games we got coming up on the channel starting next week. So not this week, but next week. Starting next week, we are going to be doing the Game of the Week. We'll have an FCS Game of the Week, FBS Game of the Week, and a Division 2 Game of the Week, as well as Division 3 Game of the Week. Division 3 and 2 are a little bit harder to find games to win because I'm not as familiar with the teams from Division 2 and 3, but I'm a little bit more familiar with the Division 2 teams and not so much with the Division 3 teams, but we will have all those games of the week. As a team builder, is possible to have these games with team builders. So the FBS game of the week for this next week. It was kind of hard to choose. We were going to do a game of the week this week. We will do it. We will do one of the featured games from this week in NCAA football besides the Iowa Maryland game. It'll be Oklahoma State and Baylor, but that will not be considered the game of the week. We will also be doing the Arkansas Georgia game as well. The Oklahoma State Baylor game will be live on my channel on Saturday will be the Arkansas-Georgia game. We have a game that will premiere here next week. It will be the game of the week. And then after that, the game of the week will be live on our channel. We'll actually have 2 games of the week next week. One premiering, that will be between as I know, we don't have 2 games of the week, and one will be live, and we only have one game of the week at wait, do we only have only one game of the week next week? We'll get to next week in a minute. Let's recap this week, what we've done so far this week, and look to recap or look to what's the rest of the week of NCAA Football 14 as far as my channel is concerned, and then look ahead to next week. Now at the end of the podcast, I will tell you what's coming up for my channel just in general, even though it has at this moment when I have anything to do with NCAA Football 14, but we just want to get that done. So, we have 2 more FBS games to do this week. We have Oklahoma State and Baylor game that we'll do live, as well as Georgia and Arkansas. And then we have a video that is going to premiere on my channel on Friday afternoon. Sometime after the game concludes, we'll have it premiere. And that video is basically how to get team builder teams in there, and how to fix a error that has been happening for some people, as well as what it looks like with the gameplay from those teams from Team Builder, plus how I get into Dynasty mode and start Dynasty with that said team. So, and I chose Coastal Carolina for that, since they weren't actually in the game when the game came out, but they're an FBS team now, so that makes a lot of sense. You can do FCS teams in term of FBS, you can do Division 2 in term, or Division 3, or Division 1 teams that weren't in the game, like Coastal Carolina or Liberty or Charlotte or Georgia Southern, or get the other alternate uniforms for OU and Georgia State and Tulane, as well as their outdoor stadium for them, which is basically using Middle Tennessee State for both of them. So there you have that. Alright, next week's games of the week, we have 2 actually for you. We have, because there was 2 big games next week that, depending upon what happens this week, but one game for sure, no matter what happens this week, with those teams, we will be doing them. Definitely the Red River Showdown is next week. We would definitely be doing that no matter what. The other one is we're planning on doing it. We'll probably do it anyways, and that's Arkansas and Ole Miss is next week. And then Georgia Auburn, if we may be doing both of those as well. We'll be doing OU Texas and Arkansas Ole Miss and Georgia Auburn as the 2 featured games of the week. We will also, since Oklahoma State is off, that's our main team of focus been this season. we will do another game. We're going to put a game on here that the majority of you probably won't see the real life version of, like ones that aren't on TV, or the ones that are in real life are not on TV, or in your area, um, or in on ESPN Plus, because I don't know how many of the population actually has ESPN Plus. I'm looking at some of the games from next week in the NCAA football on the FBS side, trying to figure out if there is a game. Let me look at the top 25. We may do Colts, Carolina, Arkansas State. We may do that game as well. That's a Thursday game. So that one will probably be on Thursday. We'll be doing college football throughout the next week. Madden will also pick up back up again as well. Just a little FYI. I know that has nothing to do with this podcast, but I just had to mention it. So if you're saying, well, where is that? So if you're either wondering where that was. So what did you say, BYU next week? Uh, um, Nebraska, Michigan, we may do that one. A&M, Alabama will probably. There's a few games that we'll do. The games that we are definitely doing next week are Coastal Carolina and Arkansas State. They'll be on Monday. Then on Tuesday we'll do Arkansas Ole Miss. Wednesday will be Oklahoma and Texas, and then here Monday, Tuesday, and that's Wednesday. Georgia Auburn on Thursday, and then we'll do Maryland and Ohio State on Friday, and then we won't have any games on Saturday or Sunday, and then we'll pick back up in the week for week 7 on Monday. Those games that for that are going to be Auburn, Arkansas is one of the games. Oklahoma, TCU, and Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, as well as Florida, LSU. That's going to be a good one. Also, a up-and-coming Big 12 matchup that we'll do that is supposed to be a future Big 12 matchup, and that is Baylor and BYU. We'll do that one as well, because those teams are supposed to be in the Big 12 together. So, as well as Purdue, we're going to do Purdue and Iowa for the Big 10 featured game. So we'll talk about that next week in next week's podcast, as what we're going to do week 7. So we're just talking about recap what we've done so far. Look ahead the rest of the weekend, and then look ahead to the next week of college football as far as our games in NCAA Football 14, as well as fun matchups and real matchups that we'll be doing in NCAA Football 14 for NCAA Football 14 video content. Like I said, the only videos we have left is besides, this is the only video we're doing today, so there's no game today. Tomorrow we'll be back with a game. There will be one game and then one premiere video tomorrow. And then we'll have one game on Saturday. That game on Saturday is so the game tomorrow will be Oklahoma State and Baylor, as well as that premiere video of the team builder teams and the Dynasty mode video. And then the Oklahoma State Baylor game, and then Arkansas Georgia will be on Saturday. And then next week, let's talk about let's fully talk. Let's fully talk about next week. So next week, Monday will be Coastal Carolina and Coastal Carolina, Arkansas State. Arkansas, Ole Miss, and OU Texas, as well as Georgia Auburn. That's and well as Florida. Wait a second. No, Ohio State, Maryland. Sorry. We made added a game on one of those days, and now it would be at Texas A&M and Alabama. So that's next week, and then next week we'll recap this week, the rest of the week this week, go over what we've done so far for this week, and look ahead to the rest of it, and then recap those remaining days, and then each week we'll recap and look ahead. We'll have final scores and stuff. We'll have a little bit more discussion on next week than we did this week. The games we have done this week. Let me go up to my channel here. I had one that premiered two days ago. That was the Maryland Iowa game. We also had uploaded and done the Oklahoma State Missouri State game. That was from week 1 that I had then didn't end up doing, but I finally decided to do. And that was the only one that was that one actually was recorded live privately and then made publicly. So it was it's considered a live stream, as well as Wisconsin and Notre Dame as well. And we did that one I think this week or last week. That was blow up for Wisconsin. Oklahoma State barely won that one by 10. The final score of the Oklahoma State game was you give me a second. 67-57 was the final score of that one, so that was a high-scoring game for FBS versus FCS, Big 12 versus Missouri Valley Conference opponent. After Missouri State was successful on one onside kick, but not successful on the other onside kick because they went out of bounds, and then Oklahoma State got the ball, took a couple of knees, and the end of the game right then and there. So there, that was that there. And then of course, Wisconsin got blown out by Notre Dame there in Chicago. So, no neutral site in our rest of our games this week. One will be Oklahoma State, and the other will be I think at Georgia. I think is the Georgia Arkansas game because Arkansas just got done playing. Arkansas just got done playing in Arlington last week. So I'm saying this one's in Athens. Yeah, this one's in Athens at Sanford Stadium. We'll lower the uniforms for that. Georgia will be in the traditional home uniforms. That'll be the red helmets, red jerseys, silver pants. Arkansas will be in their red helmets, white jerseys, and white pants. Oklahoma State, however, their uniforms for that game and my game against Baylor. Baylor will be in all white. Oklahoma State will be in white. They're wearing white helmets. Orange jerseys. Oh, sorry, white helmets, orange jerseys, and gray pants. Oh, sorry, orange helmets. Sorry, correction. Orange helmets, orange jerseys, and gray pants. The logo is unclear on the helmet. It's gonna be one of those team builder teams. Again, getting that and getting them in there, and so that's how we're gonna get that. And then, yeah, so that's how we're gonna do that as far as that is concerned. So, going back to the game of the week, the only game of the week, actually, correction, we are making a correction. The only game of the week we are doing is the FBS game of the week. We will not do an FCS game of the week, even though it is possible to do. It just will be from Team Builder and stuff. So, just have the FBS game of the week, and that will include some Team Builder, which is Coastal Carolina, Liberty, Georgia Southern, OU sometimes, and stuff like that. So that's how that's going to be. That way we can use Oklahoma State's alternate uniforms throughout the year, so we can have orange helmets since we don't have the orange helmets by default in there we only have the black, silver, white, 2 white helmets, 1 black helmet, and 1 gray helmet in there. So we only have the orange or alternate other alternate. We only have 2 white ones, traditional white, and the one with the black OSU. Or the orange OSU with the black behind the black background. So kind of like what's on the field. The new field, not the old field in the game, but yeah. So yeah, there you have it. You'll see the uniforms before we start the game against Baylor, as well as the uniforms before every game, starting with Oklahoma State Baylor game and continuing on for the rest of the season. North Dakota State will be competing with the FBS. They're the only FCS team that we will be doing, but they will be doing it with the FBS. So, as well as Idaho, as well as 2 Division II schools in, or actually 2 Division II, 2 Division II schools in UCO and SNU. And 1 Division III school maybe on a regular basis with the Coast Guard Academy, since I now know they play football. Did not know they played football. So I don't know who I'll have to remove to put them in there. Hopefully it'll be easier if you have all the FBS teams in there, including Coastal Carolina stuff in the new game. That way all I only have to do is Division 2 and 3 and FCS. Or maybe FCS would be in there to some degree. And then I would have to do is just fill in the rest of the FCS or not. I'd see them have the FCS I'd have them have all. They have the ability to have all FCS teams in there and all FBS teams in there, and then you just import the Division 2 and 3 in there in the team builder section. I like to see it where you have the different tabs where you hit the either the R2L2 or R1L1 or the RBLB or the RTLT button if you're on the Xbox. To just go back and forth between the FCS and FBS. Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping that will be in there for the new NCAA football game whenever they release that. Hopefully we'll have a new NCAA football game either next year or 2023. Well, we're getting close to 2023 because we're almost at the end of 2021, so we'll be close to 2022, which will be getting. I think next year we'll have more information on the new NCAA football game, and we will be talking about that here on this channel as well. Because that has to do with sports gaming. So, there you have that. One more game I decided that we'll do just to get it on there is TCU and Texas for this week. So Oklahoma State, Baylor, Georgia, Arkansas, and Oklahoma and Kansas State, and TCU and Texas will be the games we'll be doing. As well as we'll do a dynasty mode for Coastal Carolina. And we'll explain what that schedule looks like, the Dynasty mode, in the premiere video that premieres tomorrow. Then we'll start the Dynasty on Saturday. So we'll have 2 games on Saturday, so we'll have the Oklahoma State Baylor game plus that video. So we'll have 2 things on my channel tomorrow. That game in the premiere, and then Georgia and Arkansas, as well as Texas and TCU, and then one on Sunday with Oklahoma and Kansas State. And then Monday we'll start the next week of football. So that's about to do it for this episode 1 of this podcast for the NCAA Football 14 weekly podcast, talking about our weekly games and upcoming weekly games. I thought about moving it up to Monday. Yeah, I'll move it up to Monday so that we can recap each week, and we don't have to do partial recapping every week. So we can just look ahead and then recap. Look ahead and recap and look ahead every week. So that's how we're gonna. So that's how it's gonna work. So the thing will move to Monday. Move the podcast up to Monday. So we'll have a podcast on Monday as well as one game every Monday. So that's and then what happens when we're not having the college football season as far as real life? Are we gonna have college football? We'll have an off-season podcast, and we'll have some summer league events that we'll be doing games during the spring and summer. But that's also when I do some other sports. So when is Madden going to return to the schedule? I know this has nothing to do with NCAA Football 14, but I am going to talk about it anyways on here. We'll start that next week as well. I know we haven't been doing as much of it. We've been focusing more on NCAA Football 14 with the 2020 rosters. We'll have the 2020 rosters on here until next year, and then we'll have the 2022, 2023 rosters on there. I will work on that during the off season and get a head start on that. They're getting the main default teams done, and then the FBS teams for team builder teams are going to have to be left as is. So just letting you know that. We'll have that during the off season. I'll get that done off air during the off season, starting as soon as national championship ends. That next day, after national championship ends, I will start doing the rosters for the next season, because I'll know who's. I should know who's coming in for each school. Actually, correction onto that. Not after the. We actually will start it in April during the draft. Because we'll have the spring people coming in for the spring practices and spring games for the teams. So we'll have a better understanding on the rosters for college football by the around the NFL draft, time of the NFL draft, which is in April, sometime in April. So in April we'll have more, because we'll have spring practices for teams as well as the new recruits for all the generally all the college football teams, spring practice and spring games, and recruits are coming in around April, and some are coming in December, and then some come in during the summer. So we may have to update it during the summertime, but at least it'll be starting. Because I checked their athletic sites for the roster for every FBS team, because that's generally when those rosters get updated, is during the springtime. Yeah, that's when we start talking about and thinking about the new college football season, because of everybody's doing spring games and spring practice at that time. Not just one school, but all the schools are like that. Every conference. So that's all I'm trying to say on that. I'm not trying to say it's one school. It's all the schools. So every FBS school is like that. So that'll do it for me. Until next time.